Artistic Gamer 7, and welcome back to another video here on the channel and some more Sims 4 Occult discussions. The one that we are talking about today is probably the biggest stretch out of all the ones that gets like a single video or like, you know, the main video. They're not wrapped up in an update video or an honorable mentions video or something along those lines. But I just sort of had a few ideas, and I think some of them would be really fun, and I really don't think this one, more than any of the other ones, would ever happen, but, you know, we can have fun with it, though. Why not? So, this is going to be the Gorgons, which, I read up a little bit about them when I first started doing, like, some research things, and different things sort of handle them, sort of differently. But from what I read and gathered, Medusa is one of them, and then she had other sisters that were something similar. I don't know if they were, I can't remember if they were exactly Gorgons themselves or whatever, but basically I know out of her and her sister, she was the only one that could be killed. The others were immortal, but that has been a while ago since I read that, but Medusa is like a big one, so that's someone that you could sort of think about as I'm talking about this video. But I did recently do like a pets and creatures one. That wasn't the one before this one, but it was a few videos back, and I talked about snakes and how, like, bringing them in. This is a way that they could be brought in. Again, I don't think this is one of the occults that would ever make it in. All the occults that are in this series that have their own video have more of a chance than the Gorgons. But going with the idea that there is a chance, like maybe they are, like, you know, they've announced that, yes, we are adding this, and we're just sort of putting our thoughts and input on what we wanted to see once it comes. But, this would be a way that they could bring snakes in, because obviously the whole snake hair thing. Now, the ones that I use for this thumbnail, which I'll talk about it in the video where I make them, I didn't get to do exactly what I wanted. I at least try to get some snaky elements on them for the pictures. But the biggest thing that I really would want, if this ever became an actual occult, is snake-like hair. Now, it would be cooler with an animation, but I know, like, having an animation would take up a little bit more time than just having, like, different links of snakes' hair type things. But that would be really cool, like, different designs for, like, snakes, like a short hair option and, like, a mid-length option or whatever, but just these other snakes and stuff. It'd be cooler if they could be animated, but again, if this was a thing that actually could come, I could understand if there was a reason why they didn't want to animate it, or they only put a little animated in it, so like only 2 or 3 of the snake heads moved or whatever. But that would be so cool to, like, have that option to choose for your particular ones. And honestly, and they could portray it off. It wouldn't make sense necessarily for a Gorgon in general, but if they really wanted to make a version, sort of do like with the aliens or with the vampires in their dark form, where they have a more humanized form and then their real true form, which is the Gorgon with the snake hair. If people didn't want to have the snake hair all the time, they could easily do something like that. But I really would like the snake hair all the time, just to listen. But it would be really cool. Like, that was my main thing. That was my main thing when I first thought of this as a potential playable race, that I was like, I want snake hair. But yeah, this again could be a way to also bring in snakes and different types of snakes and things like that, because Gorgons are very snaky-like themed creatures. Now, for possible abilities they can have, I've already sort of mentioned one, which is to have the human form. Either they can just do that for all of them, or maybe they can do like something similar to the vampires, where you get to pick and choose some. I don't think there'd be as many powers for the Gorgons to choose from that the vampires did, but, you know, maybe they could come up with quite a few of them if this was a real thing that they would even potentially think of doing. But, you know, the hidden form or the normal sim form could be an option. They could make that as a more of an option thing versus all of them have it. I would be okay with that. I would be okay with it either way, because like I already said, if this was an actual thing, and they did have snake hair, I would probably constantly keep them in their regular form. Unless I was doing it for, like, storytelling. That they had to hide amongst regular humans for some reason, or, like, they really wanted to. But otherwise, it really wouldn't matter to me. But another thing would be is if, they brought in snakes, like I said, this would be a good time to bring them in if this was ever a thing that could ever happen. They could control snakes and be able to maybe talk to snakes and different things with snakes, obviously. Also be able to maybe, like, drain energy and stuff like that, whether it's just, like, something they could do, like, make it more like how the vampires do this thing, or the aliens sort of do a thing, or whatever, or maybe even the snake sort of goes deep and bites on the normal sim. Just a little, not an aggressive animation, just a little bloop. I mean, vampires already bite regular sims, so why can't we have a snake going? But so yeah, they could do it among those ways, but be able to drain. And then ultimately also having the ability to turn them to stone. That's a very Medusa thing. So that'd be cool to have that as an option. Now obviously it wouldn't be like a permanent thing in Sims. I don't think it should be, because especially how Sims does things, especially now, they're very light-hearted, or like they don't try to do things too risky anymore. In some ways that makes me sad, because I liked some of the little details. I liked some of the risk involved. It made it more realistic. And when it comes to things like Sims getting sick or dying and things like that, it's rare and hard. And when they do get some of the sick stuff, it's more annoying than it is like, oh, I need to be really concerned about this. So it's the thing. And they seem to always, like, come out with, like, when they come out with a new death, if it seems like it's too much or too excessive, they patch it up, and it's harder for them to do so. My mindset with that is there is so many ways to get around a sim dying outside of making the deaths harder to happen. Because, I mean, you can plead with the Grim Reaper. If that doesn't work, there's Ambrosia. If you're a writer and you did the Book of Life, there is that. There is technically cheats. There is mods. And I know not everyone's going to do mods, but still, it's an option. And the thing is, one of the mods that allows you can get Sims to come back is one of the most used mods that I know of, which is the MC Command Center. So, chances are a big portion of people actually have that. And also, just save more often, and if something goes awry, hopefully you've saved close. There is so many ways, like, obviously some of them are not as for sure, and some of them you may have, like, lose some stuff, and some of them you may have to plan ahead, like the Book of Life. But the Ambrosia, you don't technically have to plan ahead, because your Sims are going to be constantly cooking anyway. All you have to do is make sure to get the levels up to 10. I can't remember if Gourmet 1, if you have to have Gourmet and cooking at a level 10, or if it's just one or the other. But either way, that's not necessarily too hard. And finding the items are annoying, but not impossible. So, if you really didn't want to go the cheat or mod route, and you didn't do the Book of Life, and the Grim Reaper thing failed, and you didn't save a whole lot often, that one always is going to be, in the end, an option. But, and technically, it's just, I don't know. That's a whole nother thing. I'm getting on a whole nother topic when we're supposed to be talking about Gorgons. But yeah, the reason why I went on that is turning them to stone. Obviously, if they did it, it wouldn't be a permanent thing. I would be okay if there's a small chance of it being a permanent thing, and you had, like, your other Sims had to, like, find a way to undo it. Like, there was, like, almost like a mission thing or quest thing that you had to try to go look for certain stuff. Almost like you did, like, an Ambrosia, but you're looking for different ingredients to maybe make a paste to rub on the stone that will undo the effects, and it be like a small chance that happens, or maybe a small chance of actual death. But I don't think they would do that, so it would be a temporary turn to stone. But if you're mad at someone and you don't want them to follow you, turn them to stone, walk away, and you stay there. Or, you just turn them to stone because you're mad at them. I definitely think they should have more like an immortal thing. There should be an option to obviously get around that. I don't think any one particular occult should be 100% immortal. So there should be, like, a way to get around that. Like, with the vampires are technically immortal, but there is things around it, like the sunlight. I don't know if that's technically the only one. Do they die if they don't have plasma? Like, if you lock a vampire sim up for a very long time, to the point where they can't actually get out to get to other sims, because I know once they get to a certain point of thirst, you can't control them. Once a normal sim is nearby, they'll just go to them. But if you lock them up, can they die from not having plasma? I'm not sure. That's actually something I'm not sure, and vampires is my favorite occult in the game right now. But yeah, anyway, there should be like one or two ways around it, but I definitely think they should be immortal, or at least that's like an option to choose from in like the abilities type thing, like, yeah, extra long life or immortal life or whatever. Or maybe, you can have both of those options, and depending on how you're playing it, depends on what maybe they choose. If there's someone who wouldn't really want to live forever, but wants to live a little bit longer, then you can just choose one. Or if you're going with the story of they want to live as forever, then you could choose that one. So, you can have both options, technically, just either a longer life or an immortal life. But again, the immortal life should have, like, some sort of loophole around it. I know the way that Medusa was stopped was to cut off her head, but obviously they couldn't do anything like that. But yeah, I don't think the stone thing should be all the time. I think it should be an option that you choose from, and like even an ability that maybe they're, like I said, like a little pop-up thing, chart thing, or whatever, that you can choose like so many abilities, or like as you get certain points or something, you are able to unlock certain abilities, and that should be among them. But it shouldn't be like every time you make eye contact with a sim that you turn to stone, because I know that's how it is with Medusa and stuff, but it shouldn't be with sims if they were to ever make it in. Again, this is the one out of all the occults that I've had like a more detailed video about that I do not think is ever going to make it into the sims, sadly. I could be proven wrong, who knows, but I know that occult sims, and usually the packs that are with occult sims, are not looked at as much as the realistic ones, except for like the build and buy objects. That's usually what makes people want to get them, but I know you're not going to satisfy everyone, and that's the thing that I think some people forget. You're not going to... I don't necessarily like every single pack. I don't love every single pack, and I don't hate every single pack. The only pack that it's ever come out that I've decided not to get is the most recent one, the Star Wars one. Yes, I was disappointed, but I wasn't going to go out and attack people, and I wasn't going to hate on people that really wanted it. It personally wasn't for me, and I understand that not every pack is going to be for me, and I choose whether or not to buy it or not, because the thing is there's so many fans within the Sims community. There's no way that a pack that comes out is going to make every one of them happy. Someone is going to be disappointed out there, and that's the thing. Like, there's no way to... Once you get such a wide scale of a fan base, there's no way to make everyone happy at once. So, that's the thing. But I think sometimes the occult fantasy, unrealistic stuff gets tossed more to the side more than the realistic stuff, and it makes me sad. But anyway, another thing that maybe they can have as a power and ability, because, like, with at least the stone power and, like, thinking about actual Medusa and Gorgons and stuff like that, you want them to look at you so that you can turn them to stone. So maybe there could be, like, a ability that you can get that can lure in a specific sim, or like attract them. Whether it can be done in a friendly manner or a romantic manner wouldn't matter to me necessarily, but I would almost like both options in a way. Like one to lure them in and one to attract them in, and the lure is more of a friendly option to get them closer, while the attract is more of a romantic option to get them closer. So, something along those lines would be fun. Maybe the ability to also choose having a tail. Now, I think typically Medusa is not represented with a tail and stuff like that, and Gorgons it goes back and forth, but because it could be an interesting option, I definitely would like to see it as, like, maybe you can make, like, be able to get a tail, or have the option to choose having a tail. And maybe if you did have the snake tail, or you did have that form, you moved a little bit faster, so you can actually, like, get somewhere a little bit faster. So, you know how, like, the vampires have, like, the walking thing and the flying thing. This would be a way for them to, like, slither on really fast as well. Maybe even have a full-on snake form. That doesn't fit anywhere near with the Gorgon, like, mythology or whatever, but Sims isn't going to go 100% exact to mythology, so to have fun with it, maybe they could have, like, a snake form where they just go and sneak on by. That'd be pretty fun, actually. So, that'd be interesting, but, if they did do a snake tail, I'd like the option to be able to go faster. Maybe that's, like, a travel option, a high train, for the Gorgons to actually get from one place to the other really quickly. I actually like the vampires have that option. Like, I know you technically can do the cheat way with normal Sims and have them teleport, but I try not to do that unless I'm, like, actually, like, taking pictures or trying to do a specific thing or someone gets stuck somewhere. But, as far as, like, actual gameplay, having the option to move faster is fun sometimes and nice. So, that'd be pretty cool. Now, a lot of times I always say that there needs to be, like, pros, which would be, like, the abilities and things like that, stuff that they can do differently that helps them sort of in their life or just lets them have a little bit more fun or whatever. Something to be more positive for that particular cult, but there also needs to be some cons, the negative parts, things that sort of they have to struggle with a little bit more to sort of balance them out. I definitely think with the Gorgons it should be something along the lines of social. So having, like, a harder time being able to talk to normal Sims, and maybe even certain occults, depending. So maybe, like, with certain occults, it's still hard to actually talk to them as much. As far as the current occults, I don't know how interactions with each of them would be. I mean, the aliens could be feel for all of them, because, you know, maybe, but depending on the theme that you're going for the aliens. But the way the aliens look, like, yeah, they're weird features, but they're still more human-esque features in a way. Just usually have different eye colors, different skin colors, things like that. So, you know, they might be deterred from something that looked like a Gorgon. I don't think vampires would mind as much. Maybe because, you know, vampires were once human. And they still, especially if it's more of a freshly turned vampire, I could see them, you know, still being maybe afraid of certain occults or taken aback from occults and stuff like that, because, you know, they're getting used to this world of supernatural stuff. I think when it comes to spellcasters, they would be more curious. I think spellcasters, though they technically are normal Sims just with magical powers and abilities and stuff like that, they are the most normal of the occult Sims in a way. But because of the fact that they do like fooling with magical items and magical stuff and sort of almost in a way constantly learning and trying to improve themselves and have more magic, I think them by default shouldn't be necessarily taken from most occults. I think they'd be more curious. Like, how does this work? How does this function? Maybe the aliens would be the only ones because that's more of a scientific thing. I think the aliens would be the only ones that they may be iffy about, but I think all the other ones they would be more used to or normalized to through readings and stuff like that, and more of a curiosity type thing. So I don't think they would care. And mermaids, I really don't know. I mean, probably would be a little weirded out because, you know, they mainly come from the ocean, and though there is snakes that can swim in the water, and I think there is certain types of snakes that are near the ocean, wouldn't be as common. And this is a snake person, technically, in a way. Who knows? That one's probably the hardest one to decide. But yeah, I mean, they both can potentially get tails, so maybe not so weird. Scaly tails. But yeah, so. But definitely with the normal Sims, I definitely think with the normal Sims, they should have lower social interaction. Like, they have a harder time. Like, they're more feared, basically. Like, other Sims are more likely to walk or run away from them. It may take a few attempts to talk to them. So, like, you know how with the celebrities, you sort of have the attempt interaction type thing. Maybe it's like an attempt interaction. Not so much of an introduction, per se, because you're not just trying... It's not like a celebrity. It's not like you're like, oh, sign my autograph, give me autograph, whatever. It's more of, you're trying to get this person to actually talk to you from not being fearful. So... maybe it'd be something similar, but for totally different reasons. Because you're trying to get talk to them because they're afraid of you, but you don't want them to be afraid of you, versus the celebrity is that person you idolize or whatever, and they're probably like snobby at that point. Potentially. Not all celebrities get that way. In fact, most of them don't act that way in public, but may in person. But with Sims, I like to think that I like to have certain Sims that I imagine they're like, I'm too good for it. But anyway, so I definitely think they should have a hard time with social interaction. With non-occult Sims especially, and maybe even certain occult Sims. I think within their own occult, they should be definitely fine. Like, there should be no negative stuff going on. I definitely... back to, like, the death thing, I had actually wrote maybe there is something that can be made. Either, like, some type... Either made from a flower, or maybe the flower itself deters them, and if they ingest it in some sort of way, that is how you could get rid of them. And I even wrote down if seasons was involved, because technically there are, like, minor... Like, little minor tweaks and things like that to the other packs. Like, when you really think about it, for the new packs. So, like, vampires can now, like, carry umbrellas around with the sun, I'm pretty sure. So that was something that if you don't really have seasons, it's not going to happen if you have vampires. But if you have both, it's going to happen. So one thing I wrote is, you know, snakes are, like, cold-blooded. They like heat lamps. They like warmth. They don't like the cold. So I would imagine that maybe with the Gorgons, they wouldn't like winter. So if you had seasons, they would get colder easier. They would get very slowed down, because I know that happens with the cold-blooded creatures. They get very slowed down when they're cold. Sometimes they stop moving. So something like that, but maybe even that could be a potential death type thing. Obviously, there already is technically a death by cold, or freezing, whatever. But maybe with the Gorgons, it would happen a little bit faster if they wasn't careful. Or they would at least freeze up for, like, a very long period of time, and you couldn't control them or do anything with them because they went out in the cold when it's, like, freezing. So they're cold-blooded. They couldn't do it. But, yeah, so I think those would definitely be some nice cons. Maybe there should be some more, but I feel like when it comes to the cults, they tend to have more pros than cons. And that's fine. I definitely think there needs to be cons for balance, but if they have more, pros, that's fine. Especially if it's something like you pick. Like, with the vampires, you get to pick your powers and abilities, so obviously one vampire can't have technically all those abilities, but you get to choose from a lot. So stuff like that it's fine. And plus, occult's supposed to be a little bit abnormal and not human anyway, so obviously they need to have something about them that puts them a little bit step above the normal sim. But anyway, I think this would be a very fun occult if it ever came. I don't think it's ever going to come, though. I truly don't. Because this is like the most far shot one that I have wrote down. I have some that I'm going to make videos of after this that would definitely have a higher chance. I just randomly decided to go ahead and do this one. Because either one, they just are more thought of and such, or they've actually existed in previous Sims games. So I definitely think this one has the least likely. Out of all the ones that I have wrote down to do separate videos of, this one, the elves, and the superheroes, which I haven't actually done. I don't think. Something makes me want to say that there was something similar to superheroes maybe in a Sims past, but I'm not 100% sure, so... But part of me feels like there wasn't. But those are the only three that I can even remotely think that there hasn't been anything on. There, like I said, there may have been something similar to superheroes. I know there's been, like, superhero costumes added in, but they were more of a costume type thing, not an actual superhero. So, yeah, I don't quite for surely know if that was a thing or not. I know that I feel like there was something similar, but not exactly. I'm not sure. Like I said, I haven't, this is the first Sims that I've had, like, all the packs to, technically, so, well, almost all the packs to. So I didn't get to play a lot of them from past ones, so if it was in a pack, then I didn't know. But I definitely know elves were not a thing, because I feel like I would have heard about elves, because I really like elves. So, and Gorgons definitely was not a thing, because I feel like I would have definitely seen something that seemed familiar to that. The thing with the superheroes is that I know that there's been superhero costumes introduced in basically almost all the Sims, but they were costumes. So I don't know if my brain's getting mixed up just knowing that there was outfits for like a superhero theme, or if there was actually something similar to it in a previous Sims. So, but anyway, going on the assumption that there wasn't, those are the three that are that I have in my book that have not been a cult for Sims or in Sims. And out of those three, the Gorgons definitely have the least likely chance to make it in there. So, yeah. But still would be fun. I really would like playing it if it was a thing. It'd be a lot of fun, and I thought it'd be fun to do this video. Let me know if there's any other things that you would like to see. If you know more mythology than I do about Gorgons, this is one of the ones that, like, I knew very bare minimum of, and reading, I read it a while back ago when I was taking some of these notes, but it's been a while, so if you know a little bit more about Gorgons and stuff that could add to them in The Sims, definitely feel free to comment down below and let me know more about it. I would definitely love to hear it, and I'd love to hear y'all's input on whether or not you would like to see this in The Sims. Again, this one is probably the least likely one out of all of them in this series, but if they were, would you like to see them? Is there something else that I haven't mentioned that you would like to see from them? Just let me know your thoughts and opinions on Gorgons for Sims. I definitely would have fun with them, I think, if they did it similar to this and maybe added some stuff to it. But, I think it'd be fun. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you've missed any of the previous Sims 4 Occult discussions, there's a playlist down in the description below, so you can go check that out there. Also, I do tend to have a create a sim of me making the Sims that I used for the thumbnails, after the discussion comes on Tuesday. So this appears on Tuesday. I think it's Friday or Saturday, because Friday is a cast video. Sometimes I do the Pokemon to cast videos twice a week, and sometimes I do a different cast video on Friday, and then Saturday is a random Sims video, so it could be a build, could be a cast, could be something completely different. So, it should be on one of those 2 days immediately after the Sims 4 Occult episode, the week of, anyway. So, this comes out on Tuesday. The create a sim for it should be on the following Friday or Saturday. So, definitely look out for that if you want to see the creation process of the Sims that I used for the thumbnail and why I did what I did. And I'll see you next one. Bye bye!